They are all trapped. These are the world's most extreme women's prisons, and you're about to step inside. Tucked away on the dusty outskirts of Tehran, Iran, is a prison that makes every other facility on this list feel like a wellness retreat. This is Qarchak. At first glance, it might look like an old warehouse or a forgotten poultry farm, and that's exactly what it used to be. But today, it's one of the most overcrowded and controversial women's prisons in the world. A place so infamous that even international organizations have raised alarms about what goes on inside. Qarchak was never built to be a prison. It has no proper infrastructure for holding thousands of people, yet that's exactly what it's doing. The women here are packed into giant, shared halls where privacy is non-existent, and the heat can become unbearable. There's no air conditioning, and in summer the temperatures climb so high it feels like the inside of an oven. In winter it's the opposite, freezing and damp with no real insulation. Now picture that for a moment. Hundreds of women sleeping on the floor, no windows, no fresh air, and only one shared bathroom per block. A major issue here is how all types of prisoners are held together. That means non-violent offenders might end up living next to gang leaders or high-profile detainees. There are no real divisions, it's just one open space. That mix creates constant tension, and conflict can break out over something as small as a food tray. Speaking of food, it's mostly basic, with limited nutrition, and many inmates rely on their families to bring essentials like clean water, clothing, or medicine, if they're lucky enough to receive visits. One of the most talked about aspects of Qarchak is how isolated the women feel. Family visits are rare, phone calls are limited, and there's little access to the outside world. Many women describe the place as a kind of forgotten land, a place where time moves differently, where the days blur together. Some say it's not the rules that are tough. It's the complete lack of structure that makes it so hard. You're in a building with hundreds of others, but still totally alone. Despite its harsh reputation, Qarchak continues to operate with very little transparency. Journalists are rarely allowed in. Photos are scarce. This isn't some scene out of Orange is the New Black. Qarchak is something else entirely. It's chaos under a tin roof, no clear lines, no real relief. Just a constant struggle to stay mentally stable in a place that seems designed to wear people down. If you walked past El Buen Pastor prison in Bogotá during its annual celebration, you might think you've stumbled into a community fair. Music blares, cameras flash, and inmates strut down a makeshift runway in full makeup and evening gowns. Yes, a real beauty pageant. But behind the stage lights and smiles lies a very different world. This women's prison holds over 1,000 inmates, packed into a crumbling facility built decades ago. The pageant is real, but it's only a short escape from a daily grind of overcrowded cells and relentless noise. Inside, the conditions are anything but glamorous. Cells meant for 4 often hold 8. There are no beds for everyone, so inmates rotate sleeping hours or rest directly on the floor. There's barely any room to walk, let alone breathe. Electricity goes out, water is rationed, and basic supplies, like toilet paper or feminine hygiene products, are often missing unless family members bring them. The beauty contest might look bizarre to outsiders, but for many of these women, it's the only moment in the year where they feel seen, where they're not just another number in a concrete block. What makes El Buen Pastor so unusual is the contrast. On one hand, there's structure, religious programs, workshops, some education. On the other, there's instability, a lack of privacy, and the heavy pressure of trying to survive in a place that's bursting at the seams. It's not the worst prison in the world, but it might be one of the most surreal. The makeup fades, the cameras leave, and the women return to a reality that hasn't changed. The sparkle of the pageant is just a mask, one that covers a very rough day-to-day life. Now, let's travel from the noisy chaos of Bogotá to the quiet, tightly controlled environment of Luzira Women's Prison in Uganda. It doesn't look like a nightmare on the surface. There's greenery, organized routines, and a calm rhythm to daily life. But don't let appearances fool you. Luzira is known for its intense discipline and strict internal system, where every minute is accounted for and no movement goes unnoticed. Here, women wake early, clean their cells, and attend mandatory work programs. The prison runs like a small village, complete with gardens, classrooms, and sewing stations. But the real control comes from within. The women govern themselves through a hierarchy of inmate leaders, chosen by the prison to maintain order. It sounds democratic, but in practice, this peer policing system adds extra pressure. One wrong move can lead to being reported, isolated, or reassigned to less favorable duties. Luzira is often praised for trying to rehabilitate instead of just punish. It offers education, counseling, and even family visits in designated bonding rooms. But this structure comes with a cost. Freedom inside is extremely limited, and there's a sense of constant observation. Women are trained to monitor themselves and each other. If Qarchak is ruled by chaos, Luzira is ruled by silence and structure. There are no loud beauty contests here, no wild outbursts. Just rows of uniforms, set schedules, and a system that teaches you how to behave, even if it means losing part of who you were before. You won't find dramatic headlines or viral videos coming out of Lard Yao Women's Prison. It's not loud, it's not theatrical. But that silence is exactly what makes it so intense. Officially named the Central Women's Correctional Institution, this facility sits quietly in the middle of Bangkok. From the outside it looks calm, almost boring. Inside it's a completely different story. Lard Yao is one of the most crowded women's prisons in Southeast Asia, housing thousands of inmates, many of them convicted for minor drug offenses. The cells here are tight. At night, women sleep in long rows, shoulder to shoulder on the floor with nothing but thin mats. The lights never fully go out. Privacy doesn't exist. Everything is done in groups, eating, sleeping, even using the bathroom. And the rules? They're enforced with military precision. You speak when spoken to. You sit when told. You move only when permitted. For some inmates, it's like being part of a silent drill team, with no escape and no applause. What makes Lard Yao so unique is how it blends punishment with performance. Every now and then the world catches a glimpse of the dancing inmates, choreographed routines practiced by prisoners for public display. It looks like rehabilitation. Maybe it is. But beneath the synchronized movements and smiling faces there's still a layer of control. Participation is rarely optional. If you follow the rules, you get privileges. If not, you don't. Life inside Lard Yao isn't brutal in the traditional sense. It's not loud or chaotic. It's the quiet pressure of having your every move scripted and your daily life shaped by an invisible clock ticking overhead. Welcome to the largest women's prison in the United States. Chowchilla, officially known as the Central California Women's Facility, isn't just big, it's massive. It stretches across acres of dry land, surrounded by barbed wire, towers, and walls that seem to trap more than just people. This place was built for security, not comfort, and it shows in every corner of the compound. From the moment you step through its gates, the weight of its size hits you. But what's heavier is the atmosphere inside. Chowchilla holds some of the most long-term and high-risk female inmates in the country. Many are here for decades, some for life. The days are long and they rarely change. Inmates follow strict routines, counts, mealtimes, lockdowns. There's education and work programs, but space is limited, and getting into the good ones can take months, even years. The cells are tight and shared, and many inmates spend up to 22 hours a day locked inside. Noise bounces off the concrete walls, making sleep difficult and peace almost impossible to find. Despite being in California, where innovation and reform get a lot of buzz, Chowchilla operates more like a cold machine. It runs efficiently, but not warmly. Mental health is a growing concern here, with long-term isolation and strict control taking a toll on many inmates. It's not chaos like in other parts of the world, it's monotony that drains you. The prison is a fortress not because of its defenses but because of its emotional weight. It doesn't scream, it just quietly presses down on anyone who enters day after day. For many women here, the toughest part isn't what happened before they arrived, it's how slow the days pass once they're inside. On the surface, Lo Wu Correctional Institution looks almost futuristic. Surrounded by tall fences and clean landscaping near Hong Kong's northern border, it could pass for a tech campus or modern office complex. But beyond those sleek walls lies one of the most tightly controlled women's prisons in East Asia. Lo Wu doesn't use chains or overcrowded cells to enforce discipline. It uses silence, routine, and invisible pressure. This is Hong Kong's largest women's prison, housing a mix of short-term and long-term inmates, including those convicted of smuggling, fraud, and more recently, political offenses. It's a place where everything runs like clockwork. Inmates wear identical uniforms, follow a rigid daily schedule, and move only when instructed. Conversations are limited, and stepping out of line even slightly can result in lost privileges or time in solitary. The discipline here is quiet, cold, and consistent. What sets Lo Wu apart is its focus on structure over fear. Inmates participate in vocational training, laundry, printing, and even hairdressing, and can earn certificates that help with post-release work. There's a sense of opportunity, But it comes with conditions. Everything is monitored. Every phone call is supervised. Visitors must follow strict rules. Even emotional expression is kept in check. While it doesn't make headlines for physical abuse or overcrowding, Lowu earns its reputation through psychological control. It's not brutal in a visible way. It's controlled to the point where daily life feels almost sterile, clean, quiet, and stripped of individuality. For many inmates, the toughest part isn't the environment. It's becoming just another cog in a perfectly functioning system. In the heart of Cochabamba, Bolivia, there's a prison that doesn't just house women, it houses entire families. San Sebastian Women's Prison is one of the few places in the world where children live behind bars alongside their mothers. From the outside, it's a worn-down building surrounded by concrete walls. But inside, it's something else entirely, a chaotic mix of motherhood, confinement, and survival. Here, toddlers play near cell doors, strollers are parked next to bunks, and lullabies echo off prison walls. This setup wasn't planned with care. It happened out of necessity. Bolivian law allows children under a certain age to stay with their mothers in prison if there's no one else to care for them. So, what should be a correctional facility doubles as a makeshift daycare. There are no separate spaces for children, no safety zones, and certainly no proper healthcare services for growing kids. The same bathrooms, the same food lines, the same crowded conditions, kids go through it all with their moms. The cells are tight, and personal space doesn't exist. Many women sleep on blankets laid out on the floor. There are no beds for everyone. Resources are so limited that inmates rely heavily on family visits for essentials like diapers, soap, or clean clothes. And when those visits stop, you go without. There are programs aimed at helping the women, including basic workshops or short-term jobs, but access depends on space and approval. The prison isn't built for comfort or for kids, but both exist here anyway. San Sebastian may not have conflicts of other prisons, but its uniqueness lies in what you see every day. A baby taking its first steps on prison tile. A mother trying to stay strong in a place where crying is constant and sleep is rare. It's not the cruelty of punishment that makes this prison stand out. It's the strange, uncomfortable blur between parenting and confinement, a childhood spent behind a locked gate. Deep in the outskirts of Yangon, surrounded by layers of barbed wire and watchtowers, stands one of Asia's most secretive and feared prisons, Insign. This isn't a name you hear often in everyday conversation, but inside Myanmar, it carries weight. Insign Prison is infamous across the region, and the women's wing, tucked away within the larger compound, is especially unsettling. It's not the size or the noise that gets you, it's the silence, the uncertainty, and the sense that you're completely cut off from the rest of the world. The women held here range from those accused of political activity to others sentenced for small-time offenses. But once you're in, the categories blur. Everyone is treated with the same distant coldness. The cells are small, the air is thick, and days pass with minimal movement or interaction. There's little natural light, and the tropical humidity makes even sitting still feel exhausting. Communication with the outside world is rare. Visitors are limited, letters often vanish, and phone calls? Almost unheard of. The control here isn't just physical, it's psychological. Women often spend hours in locked rooms with nothing but their thoughts. There are few programs, almost no rehabilitation opportunities, and very little information on when or how things will change. Even release dates can shift without warning. Rumors travel faster than facts, and that's what makes Insign feel like a pressure cooker with no release valve. It's not a place that tries to look fair or modern. Unlike high-tech prisons in other countries, Insign hasn't changed much in decades. The walls are old, the routines are rigid, and the fear hangs in the air. This prison isn't built for progress, it's built to disappear people into the system. For the women inside, every day feels like a test of endurance. Not just physically, but emotionally. Insign is less about bars and chains and more about the quiet erosion of time. You've seen how harsh women's prisons can be, but what if some women behind bars lived with comfort, purpose, even beauty? Let's check out these prisons. Just outside of Brisbane lies a women's prison that looks, and feels, very different from the ones we've seen so far. The Brisbane Women's Correctional Centre isn't built like a fortress, and it doesn't function like one either. Instead of rows of tiny cells and echoing hallways, the focus here is on rehabilitation through stability, structure, and support. That doesn't mean it's soft, it's still a secure facility, but the way it handles life on the inside sets it apart. At this facility, women are housed in units that resemble shared homes. They cook together, clean together, and are expected to take part in their own upkeep. Each unit holds about 10 women, and includes a communal kitchen and living area. There's no mistaking that you're still in prison, but the environment encourages cooperation rather than tension. That alone makes a huge difference in how women adjust to life inside. One of the most unique features of Brisbane Women's Correctional Center is its focus on trauma-informed care. Many of the inmates here come from difficult backgrounds, and staff are trained to understand the psychological weight that often comes with that. Rather than isolate women or punish them harshly for acting out, the prison puts time into communication, mental health support, and personalized care plans. There's a health clinic on site, parenting programs for mothers, and cultural spaces for Indigenous inmates, recognizing that one-size-fits-all doesn't work when it comes to rehabilitation. Of course, it's still prison. Movement is restricted, rules are enforced, and not everyone has the same experience. But the goal here isn't just control, it's to prepare these women for life after release. From vocational programs like hospitality training and construction workshops, to wellness activities like yoga and self-development classes, this facility invests in growth. Brisbane Women's Correctional Center doesn't promise comfort, it offers structure. And in a system that's often cold and rigid, that approach stands out. On the southern edge of Auckland, New Zealand, there's a prison that redefines what it means to do time. The Auckland Region Women's Corrections Facility isn't built on fear or punishment, it's built around identity, healing, and cultural connection. This is New Zealand's largest women-only prison, and while it's fully secure and professionally run, it's also one of the few places where women behind bars are encouraged to reconnect with their roots, rather than just serve out their sentence. One of the most remarkable aspects of this facility is its focus on Maori culture. With a significant number of Maori women in custody, the prison incorporates language, tradition, and community-based values directly into daily life. Inmates can take part in kapa haka, learn traditional crafts, and even perform ceremonies in specially designed cultural spaces. This approach isn't just symbolic, it's designed to rebuild identity, restore pride, and create a sense of belonging that many women lost long before they arrived. The prison also offers dedicated whanau units, family-focused areas that allow mothers to spend meaningful time with their children in a safe, respectful environment. Unlike the bleak, overcrowded cell blocks in other parts of the world, these spaces feel more like homes. There's color, light, and furniture that doesn't scream institution. It's not about luxury, it's about dignity. Inmates here have access to education, job training, and counseling. Some train in trades like horticulture or culinary arts. Others study toward qualifications through correspondence programs. But perhaps the most powerful element is the focus on rehabilitation through connection, both to others and to oneself. Officers are trained to support, not just supervise, and that shift in mindset ripples through the entire environment. Auckland Region Women's Corrections Facility doesn't claim to be perfect. There are still challenges, but it stands as proof that when women are treated as people first, not just prisoners, the outcomes can be very different. It's not leniency, it's a smarter kind of justice. Tucked away in the quiet countryside of North Yorkshire, HMP Askham Grange might be one of the most surprising women's prisons in the UK. There are no towering walls or menacing guard towers here. Instead, this open prison feels more like a peaceful residential campus than a correctional facility. And yes, one of its standout features is a fully functioning beauty salon, open to the public and staffed by inmates in training. This isn't just for show, the salon is part of a broader strategy at Askham Grange, helping women rebuild confidence, gain real-world skills, and feel a sense of normal life. Inmates can earn vocational qualifications in hairdressing and beauty therapy, giving them a valuable edge for employment once they're released. Locals from the surrounding area book appointments and interact with the women face-to-face, breaking down stereotypes and creating a rare sense of community between the inside and the outside. But it's not all about haircuts and manicures. The prison also includes a cafe that's open to the public, allowing inmates to train in hospitality and customer service. There are mother and baby units designed to support women caring for young children. The goal here is to make prison time productive rather than punitive. Inmates are expected to take responsibility for their routines, participate in work or study programs, and prepare for a life beyond the gate. The environment is clean, structured, and respectful. There are gardens, personal development workshops, and group therapy sessions. The women live in shared accommodations rather than isolated cells, with access to kitchen spaces where they cook their own meals. It's a long way from the harsh concrete blocks seen in traditional prisons. Askham Grange operates on the belief that trust, dignity, and preparation are more powerful than punishment alone. For many viewers, this kind of prison may sound too soft, but the results speak volumes. Low reoffending rates, higher employment rates post-release, and a stronger sense of personal accountability. At Askham Grange, rehabilitation isn't just a buzzword, it's part of the daily routine. To close our journey, we arrive in Sweden, at Hinseberg, the country's largest women-only prison. And if you're expecting rows of cold cells and harsh routines, think again. Hinseberg is something entirely different. This is a place where the focus isn't just on time served, but on what happens after. Here, the system is built around the idea that if you want people to change, you have to give them the tools to do it. The environment is calm, structured, and surprisingly open. Women live in small shared apartments, not barred cells. They wear their own clothes, manage their own schedules, and cook their own meals. There's trust here, earned and reinforced daily. Inmates take part in education, group therapy, and long-term skill building. Many even study for university degrees or learn trades like sewing, cooking, and computer work. Hinseberg doesn't hide the fact that it's a prison, but it refuses to define the women by their worst mistakes. The focus is on growth, reflection, and giving people a real shot at a different life. Guards are called correctional officers, but act more like counselors or mentors. It's not about leniency, it's about building people up so they don't return. In a world filled with harsh institutions and broken systems, Hinseberg is a rare example of what happens when dignity, responsibility, and structure are combined. It's not a soft option, it's just smart. And maybe, just maybe, it's the future. That's about it. Which prison surprised you the most? Write in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.